Hey guys, today I'd like to introduce you to this really sweet bike from Honda. This is the GB350S, and this particular model is a 2021. First introduced to India's market in 2020, Honda released this GB model the following year in Japan, with the standard GB350 in April of 2021 and the sport version in July. Both bikes are powered by a 348cc air-cooled 4-stroke single-cylinder engine that pumps out 20 horsepower at 5,500 RPM. It has a 15-liter gas tank and a 5-speed transmission. The price of the standard model is almost $3,900 US, and the Sport S model is closer to $4,200. How is it possible that a Honda bike of this size can be so reasonable? Well, the main reason is because the parts for this GB350S are mostly made in India, and afterwards are imported here to Japan, where they're painted and assembled in Kumamoto. Before I jump into more details about this bike, I'd first like to tell you a bit about today's filming location. This place is known as Oyama Senmaida. Oyama means big mountain, and Senmaida means 1,000 rice fields. Are there truly 1,000? Not quite, but there are a lot. Even though machines are commonly used for rice farming in Japan today, some of these smaller terraced rice fields are still planted and harvested by hand. The irrigation of rice fields is usually done using a reservoir of some kind, but these terraced rice fields are the only ones in Japan that rely entirely on rainwater. Oyama Senmaida is around 2 hours from Tokyo, making it the nearest terraced rice field to the city. It's also considered to be one of Japan's top 100 terraced rice fields. In 2010, the Japanese emperor and his wife visited this place and were so moved by its beautiful scenery that the emperor decided to write a poem about it. His poem was then carved into this rock and placed here in 2012. Beyond this rock we can see Mount Atago, which is the highest mountain in Chiba Prefecture at 408 meters high. The Emperor's right, this is truly a beautiful area. You know what else is beautiful? This bike. Let's get back to it. So, what are the differences between this GB350S and the standard GB350? The S has blacked out front and rear fenders made of resin, and it also has a wider rear tire. The S's rear suspension is black. The standard has it in chrome. It has an all-black muffler with a chrome heat shield, whereas it's completely chrome on the standard model. The S has fork boots. Their seat designs are completely different. The S's turn signals have a rectangular design to them. The taillight on the S is located directly under the seat, whereas it's mounted on the fender on the standard model. The S's shifter is the common type, whereas on the standard model it has a heel-toe shifter. The foot pegs have been moved back a bit compared to where they sit on the standard GB. The handlebar is also straighter and a touch lower. The S is also 5 mm shorter than the standard model, and it's 2 kilograms lighter at 178 kilograms. All of these subtle changes put the rider into a slightly forward-leaning position, which helps give this bike more of a sporty feel. Besides these differences, both bikes have the same engine and height at 800 millimeters, and they both have a front wheel that's 19 inches. The rear tire on the S is 17 inches, and it's 18 inches on the standard. The GB350S has this tuck-and-roll seat design that's set off with this sporty red stitching. The side cover is nice and modern. It has disc brakes with ABS in the front and rear. You can enjoy riding this bike while looking at the cleanly designed analog gauge with a built-in digital screen showing the gear indicator, clock, fuel gauge, odometer, and trip odometer. There's a helmet lock. It has LED lights all around. A locking fuel cap. And besides all that, just have a listen to this thing. Such a great sound. But it's not all positive for this bike. The clutch lever is so light and cheap feeling that it seems like I'm squeezing on a piece of plastic even though it's actually aluminum. I didn't like this in the beginning, but in stop-and-go traffic where you're constantly pulling in and out the clutch, your hand does take less of a beating with it being so lightweight. Something else potential buyers might not like is that there's plenty of actual plastic on this bike, including around the gauge, front headlight housing, and both fenders. And finally, there's an indicator light on the dash that says Eco. This thing flashes on and off just about every time you move the throttle, which is pretty distracting since it kept making me think a check engine light was coming on. These days, there are a lot of people who want their bikes bigger and bigger with more and more power. They may think a 350 is simply too small.
小さいよ。
小さすぎやろ。
To those people, I say, open your mind. And others may say that carrying a passenger on a bike this size will make it work too hard.
あかんやろ。
無理じゃない？
無理無理。
Open your mind. But how about carrying a passenger and going up hills? Isn't that asking way too much out of a 350?
バカじゃないの？
Open your mind. This thing's got plenty of power. Let's take it for a ride and talk more about its positive points, which far outweigh the negative ones, for me anyway. The seat gives you just enough padding. The longest I rode this bike without taking any kind of break was a couple of hours, and I wasn't sore at all from that. Being so light, this bike is incredibly maneuverable. The disc brakes with ABS stop you in a hurry. Besides that super light clutch I have mixed feelings about, the rest of the build quality feels like any other Honda, nice and solid. It's great. No, I take that back. It's amazing on gas. The price point is really tough to beat. And on top of all that, just listen to this thing. That single cylinder with its thumping sound gives this bike such personality. On a side note, if you guys make it out to Japan, this road I'm riding on today is called Nagasa Kaido. It cuts through the bottom part of Chiba Prefecture, and it's so quiet and has so many gentle curves. I highly recommend it. Okay, so to wrap this up, I'll give you my final thoughts on this bike. Honda really knocked it out of the park with this one. If it were a car, it would remind me of a Mazda Miata, or in this case, since it's a Honda, I guess an S2000. It's not overpowered by any means, but it's not underpowered either. It can handle highway speeds just fine without working too hard. It gives you just enough oomph to do what you've got to do around town while still having fun in the twisties. You can use every ounce of power this bike has, and it'll provide you with non-stop fun without you receiving a speeding ticket afterwards. The Honda GB350S is a winner in my book. I hope you enjoyed your look at today's ride from Honda. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.